You've probably got one in the garage right now. A green rock, maybe the size of your fist, maybe smaller, sitting in a coffee can or a shoebox with a piece of masking tape on it that says a date and a creek name you can barely read anymore. You picked it up because the color caught you. You brought it home, you looked at it under the kitchen light, and it looked like nothing. Just a dull, greasy, greenish lump. So you set it aside and it's been sitting there for 11 years. Here's what I need you to hear. That's not bad luck, and it's not a bad eye. Nobody ever taught you what a green gem looks like before a cutter touches it. Gems aren't rare. Knowing what a gem looks like in the rough is rare. The stone that's worth $2,000 in the ground looks nothing like the one in the jewelry store window. And that gap is exactly why people walk over these things for decades. So today I'm giving you 7 green stones that regularly sell for more per gram than gold, none of them emeralds. For each one, what it actually looks like in the rough, the ground it has to be in to exist at all, a 5-second field check you can do with a pocket knife, and a real value range. Number 7 is the one almost nobody outside professional gemology can identify by sight, and fine material outruns emerald per carat. Stay to the end for it. Before we go one step further, do me a favor. If you've ever carried a green stone home in your pocket, dead certain it was something, and it turned out to be nothing, tell me in the comments what you thought you had. Now here's the part that makes all 7 of these findable instead of lucky. Green in a mineral almost never comes from the mineral itself. It comes from a trace metal that snuck into the crystal while it was growing. And there are only about 4 metals that do it: chromium, vanadium, nickel, and copper plus iron, which mostly makes the dull olive and bottle greens. That matters more than anything else I'll tell you today, because each one of those metals lives in a very specific kind of rock. Chromium and nickel come up from the mantle, riding in dark, heavy, magnesium-rich rock, the stuff that turns into serpentine when water gets into it. Copper lives in oxidized copper country, the stained, crumbly upper zone above an old copper deposit. Vanadium shows up in certain hot, graphite-bearing metamorphic rocks. So when you want green gems, you don't look for green gems. You look for the rock that carries the metal, and then you look at the cracks, cavities, contacts, and gravels downhill from it. That's the whole game. The second half of the foundation is uglier and just as important. Everything at the surface wears a coat: iron stain, desert varnish, a frosted skin from tumbling in sand, a white chalky rind from weathering. Color at arm's length lies to you constantly. So you learn to judge 4 things instead: how light behaves at a thin edge when you put a flashlight behind it, how heavy the stone feels for its size, what the luster looks like on a fresh chip rather than the weathered face, and whether a steel blade bites it or skates off. Those 4 checks, done in about 10 seconds, will settle 9 out of 10 of the arguments in your rock box. And 1 more number to keep in your head as a yardstick. At recent prices, gold runs somewhere in the neighborhood of $70 to $80 a gram. A carat is 1/5 of a gram. So gold is roughly $15 a carat. Any stone that brings more than about $15 a carat is, gram for gram, worth more than gold. You're about to find out how low that bar really is. Number 1 is Peridot. And here's what shocks people: it's one of the only gems on Earth that doesn't form in the crust at all. It comes up from the mantle, from 40 or 50 miles down, as a passenger in rising basalt. In the rough, it looks like nothing you'd stop for. Look for glassy, rounded grains and broken chunks in a distinctly greasy olive to yellowish green, most of them pea-sized to thumbnail, translucent to clear when you get a clean one, with a slightly oily shine rather than the sharp glitter of quartz. They almost never come as pretty crystals. They come as sugary clusters of green grains packed into a dark, gray, or black volcanic rock, sometimes as a fist-sized golf ball-looking nodule of solid green grain that the Rockhound world calls a mantle nodule. The mechanism is simple: a chunk of the mantle got torn loose and carried up in magma too fast to melt. Then the volcanic rock around it weathered away and dumped the green grains into the dirt. Arizona is the address most people know. Peridot Mesa on the San Carlos Apache Reservation has supplied a large share of the world's commercial peridot, and collecting there requires tribal permission, so do that properly. Kilbourne Hole in southern New Mexico is a famous public land volcanic crater where mantle bombs weather out of the rim. Value ranges hard by size and clarity. Small, clean commercial stones run maybe $20 to $50 a carat cut, and clean, well-colored material above 5 carats can run into the hundreds per carat. Gram for gram, that's several times gold. The beginner's mistake? Walking past the dark host rock entirely because it's ugly and only picking up loose grains from the surface. The good stuff is still locked in that black basalt, and it's sitting there because everyone else thought the same thing you did. Which brings me to the greenstone that has made more American rockhounds real money than any other. Number 2 is green tourmaline, and almost nobody outside the trade knows that America has produced world-class material for over 2 centuries. In the rough, it looks like a stubby or long green crystal shaped like a pencil. And here's the giveaway that costs people money when they miss it. Run your finger down the side. Tourmaline has heavy, lengthwise striations, like the grooves on a piece of celery, and a cross-section that's a rounded triangle rather than a hexagon. Colors run from dark forest and blackish green to true grass green to that watery mint. Look at the ends. They're often broken off, and a clean broken end is where you check transparency with your flashlight. Where do they live? Pegmatites. A pegmatite is the last, wettest, weirdest bit of a granite body to freeze, and because it freezes slowly and holds all the leftover exotic elements, it grows enormous crystals in gas pockets. So you're hunting weathered pegmatite outcrops, the quartz and feldspar rubble downslope from them, and above all the old dump piles at abandoned feldspar and mica mines. In October 1972, at Plumbago Mountain in Newry, Maine, diggers broke into a pocket that produced tourmaline by the ton, a find still talked about 50 years later, and the reason Maine pegmatites still get walked every summer. Clean, well-colored green tourmaline over a carat commonly runs from about $50 a carat into the several hundreds, and the finest chrome green material goes well beyond that. The mistake here is heartbreaking and common. People find a green crystal in pegmatite rubble, see that it's cracked and cloudy on the outside, and toss it. Tourmaline crystals routinely have a rough, frosted, etched skin and a gem-clear core. Never judge a tourmaline by its jacket. Quick pause here because everything I just walked you through, the striations, the weathered rind, the dump pile logic, plus dozens more signs like it, is inside the Rockhound's Compass 2026 edition. 50 field-tested ways to tell a gem from a pretty rock before you ever leave the creek, what each stone looks like in the rough, and the ground that has to be there for it to exist at all. Link is in the description, QR code is on your screen. This is the season you stop filling buckets with quartz. Number 3 is Chrysoprase, and this is the one that gets thrown back in the creek more than any other green gem in America. It's chalcedony, microcrystalline quartz, but instead of being colored by iron, it picked up nickel, and nickel does something no other coloring agent does. It produces that opaque to translucent apple green, sometimes almost a green-tinted milk. In the rough, it looks like a lumpy, waxy nodule, or a vein filling with a chalky, white weathering skin, and the color only shows where the skin is broken, or where a corner got knocked off in the gravel. Luster is waxy, not glassy. Put a flashlight against it and good material glows green about a quarter-inch in. Hardness is a solid 7, so a knife blade absolutely will not scratch it. That skate-off is your first check. Now the mechanism, and it's the same mechanism that pays off at the very end of this video, so file it away. Nickel rides in mantle-derived rock. When that rock weathers in a warm climate, nickel goes into solution, moves down through fractures, and gets trapped in silica gel that hardens into chalcedony. So Chrysoprase only exists where serpentine and related dark ultramafic rock has been chewed on by weather for a very long time. In the field, that means serpentine belts and the seams and boxwork cracks inside them, plus the gravels immediately downstream. Australia produces the world's best, but the serpentine country of Northern California and Southwest Oregon has produced good material for decades. Fine translucent chrysoprase runs from roughly $20 a carat into the low hundreds for top color. Again, multiples of gold. Here's where the villain of this whole video makes his first appearance. Common green quartz and green aventurine look close enough to fool you at 10 feet. Aventurine has tiny reflective flecks that flash when you rotate it in the sun. Chrysoprase never sparkles internally, it glows. And if you see gas bubbles, perfectly round, suspended in the middle of the stone, put it down. That's bottle glass, tumbled smooth by the creek, and it has fooled every single one of us at least once. Number 4 is Veracite, and this one carries a special kind of sting because thousands of people have found it and sold it for pennies believing it was low-grade turquoise. In the rough, it's a nodule or a seam filling in a soft, pale, punky host rock, and the color is that blue-green to yellow-green of a spring pasture, often with a spiderweb of black or brown material running through it. That webbing is what collectors pay for. The mechanism is completely different from everything else on this list. It's a phosphate, not a silicate. Phosphorus-rich groundwater moved through aluminum-rich rock, shale, chert, sandstone, and dropped its load in seams and cavities. No copper involved, which is exactly why it's greener than turquoise and why the field check works. Hardness is around 4 to 5, so a steel blade will bite it, gently. And here's your 5-second confirmation. Drag it across the unglazed back of a piece of bathroom tile. Veracite leaves a white streak. Copper minerals like malachite, which people also mistake for it, leave a pale green streak. That one scrape has saved a lot of people a lot of embarrassment. Nevada and Utah are the classic American addresses. The Utah material from the Fairfield area became famous under the old name Utah Light before the best of it was mined out. And Nevada's high desert has produced webbed green Veracite for a century. Look at road cuts, prospect pits, and the dump piles at old phosphate and turquoise diggings. And remember that Veracite is soft enough that the creek destroys it, so you find it in place, not in gravel bars. Fine webbed cabochon material can run $10 to $50 a carat and up, which puts a single decent nodule well past its weight in gold. The mistake is assuming that anything green in the desert is worthless because it isn't blue. That assumption has cost people real money. Look, I'll be straight with you. The 50 checks in the Rockhound's compass are laid out across 5 chapters, ordered so you can actually work through them at the tailgate. Book open in one hand, stone in the other. It's for the person who's got a box of unknowns in the garage and no way in. If you've been watching these videos thinking there's something out there you keep walking past, that's the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year you finally know what you're holding. Number 5 is Jade, and I need to be careful here because Jade is the most impersonated stone in North America. Real jade means one of 2 minerals, nephrite, which is a dense felted mass of tiny amphibole fibers, or jadeite, which is a pyroxene and the rarer, more valuable of the 2. In the rough, nephrite is a boulder or a cobble with a rusty brown to tan weathering rind, and the rind is thin, sometimes a 1/16 of an inch, with the green hiding underneath. 2 things give it away. First, heft. Jade is heavy for its size, noticeably heavier than a quartz cobble the same volume. Second, toughness. Take your hammer and tap a corner. Ordinary rock chips and shatters. Nephrite resists, dense, and when it finally breaks, it breaks with a splintery, fibrous surface, not a clean, glassy curve. Tap it with a steel object, and good nephrite rings with a clear, high note instead of a dull thud. Hardness runs 6 to 6.5, so a knife skates off. Where does it come from? Both jades form where oceanic crust got shoved down and squeezed at high pressure and relatively low temperature. Subduction country. That's why you find jade in serpentine belts in the melange rock along old plate boundaries and in the rivers draining them. Wyoming named nephrite its state gem in 1907 after ranchers and rockhounds pulled boulders off the sagebrush flats around Lander and Jeffrey City for decades. California's Big Sur coast, the Trinity and Mariposa country, Alaska's Kobuk region, and the Clear Creek area of San Benito County have all produced real material. Common nephrite is cheap by the pound, but translucent apple green Wyoming jade has sold for hundreds of dollars a pound, and fine jadeite is in another universe entirely. And the imposter here is serpentine itself, the very rock jade is found near. Serpentine is soft, 3 to 5 on the scale. Your knife will cut it like hard soap. It also feels slippery and greasy to the fingertips. Jade never does. That single knife test separates a $5 rock from a $500 one. Here's how badly the world can miss green stone sitting in plain sight. For over 1,000 years, the Maya carved Jade, thousands of objects, some of the finest lapidary work in the ancient Americas, and by the 20th century, archaeologists had lost the source. It was simply gone. The prevailing view was that the deposits were exhausted or their location was permanently lost to history. Then in 1904, an American couple, J. and Mary Lou Rittinger, went looking in the Motagua River Valley of Guatemala, following the geology instead of the legends. They found it. Jadeite boulders in and along the drainage, in country where local people had been walking past them, and in some cases using them as ordinary stone for generations. The Rittingers went on to build a working jade industry around that rediscovery, and the Motagua Valley is now recognized as the source of Mesoamerican jade. Think about what actually happened there. The stones were never hidden. They were lying in the open, wearing a dull brown weathering rind. In a river valley people crossed every day. What was missing wasn't the deposit. What was missing was somebody who knew what jadeite looks like before it's cut. That's the whole lesson of this video in one story, and it's why your coffee can in the garage deserves a second look. Number 6 is green sapphire, and this one always gets a reaction because people hear sapphire and think blue and think Sri Lanka and think there's no chance in America. Wrong on all three. Sapphire is corundum, and corundum comes in every color, including a bottle green and a green blue that most diggers throw straight into the tailings bucket. In the rough, Montana sapphire looks like a small, flattened, barrel-shaped or lozenge-shaped pebble. Frosted and slightly waxy on the outside, in a color range from pale green to steely blue-green to a grayish khaki. Most are under half an inch. They do not look like gems. They look like beat-up glass. But 2 checks close the case in 5 seconds. First, heft. Corundum has a density of about 4 versus 2.6 for quartz, so a sapphire pebble feels startlingly heavy for its size, and in a pan it sits down at the bottom with the black sand. Second, hardness 9. It will scratch glass and quartz effortlessly, and nothing in your pocket will scratch it. The mechanism: these sapphires grew in deep rock, got carried up by volcanic activity, and then were released into ancient stream gravels, which is why you hunt them in gravel, not in outcrop. The Rock Creek and Gem Mountain area near Phillipsburg, Montana, and the Missouri River bars near Helena have produced them commercially for well over a century, and there are fee dig operations in that region open to the public where you can buy and screen gravel legally. Cut Montana sapphires commonly run from around $100 a carat into the many hundreds for clean, well-colored stones. Now here's the callback. Bottle glass. Green glass tumbles in a creek into pebbles that look shockingly like green sapphire rough. Glass is light in the hand. It often carries a curved mold seam, and it frequently holds those perfectly round bubbles. Sapphire is heavy, harder than anything in your pocket, and never bubbly. If you've ever brought home a pocket full of green pebbles and had someone tell you it was a busted beer bottle, that's not a failure. That's the exact moment you learn the 2 tests that make you dangerous. And now, number 7, the one I promised you, and the one I'd bet money almost nobody watching has consciously identified in the field: Demantoid garnet. Here's the part that stops people cold. Fine Demantoid can outsell fine emerald per carat, and it has more fire than a diamond. Its dispersion, the ability to split white light into color flashes, is measured higher than diamonds. That's not marketing, that's a measured optical property. Demantoid is a chromium-colored variety of andradite garnet, and in the rough it appears as small, rounded-looking crystal balls with 12 or 24 faces, lodged in seams and cracks in a color from yellowish grass green to a deep, vivid green. Sizes are typically small. Clean stones over 2 carats are genuinely rare, but the luster is the tell. It's what gemologists call adamantine, a hard, near-metallic, glassy brilliance with an almost resinous, oily glint, much brighter than quartz. Garnet has no cleavage, so the crystals stay whole instead of splitting into flat faces. Density is high, near 4, so again it feels heavy for its size. Hardness sits around 6.5 to 7, so a knife will not touch it. Many demantoids also carry fine golden fibers inside that fan out in what the trade calls a horsetail inclusion. Under a loop, that's essentially a signature. Mechanism, and here's the payoff to what I told you back in the Chrysoprase section. Chromium rides in mantle-derived rock, and Demantoid grows where that rock got serpentinized and cooked along a contact with limestone or another reactive rock, with calcium and iron and silica all available at once. That means you hunt it exactly where the map changes color, the contact line where serpentine or dark ultramafic rock meets something else. Seams and vugs in serpentinite. Scarn zones. The dump piles at old chromite, asbestos, magnetite, and talc workings, which almost nobody screens because they're looking for the ore, not the gangue. The original Demantoid came out of the Bobrovka River area in Russia's Ural Mountains in 1868. More was found in Namibia in the 1990s, and androdite garnet in green shades occurs in the serpentine and skarn country of California, Arizona, and elsewhere in the West. Value. Clean, well-colored Demantoid above a carat commonly trades from a couple $1,000s a carat upward, with exceptional larger stones going far higher. That's over 100 times gold, gram for gram. And the beginner's mistake is brutal in its simplicity. Two things get thrown away. One is Peridot, which is also green and also lives in these rocks. Peridot is darker, more olive to pistachio, forms long splintery prisms, and breaks apart easily, and people learn to ignore green and serpentine because they keep finding it. The other is the crust. Demantoid crystals sit in seams coated with dull brown iron and gray clay, and the only thing you see is a bump. Wet the seam. Put a loop on it. When the light hits a Demantoid face, it doesn't glow like glass, it flashes, so which of these have you found before, even if you had no idea what it was at the time? The green pebble and the black basalt? The striated green crystal and the pegmatite dump? The rusty cobble that rang when you tapped it? Tell me in the comments, I read them, and I promise you somebody else in that thread found the same thing and had the same doubt. Here's where you stand now compared to 25 minutes ago. You know that green in a stone comes from a handful of metals, and each one lives in a specific rock, so you can hunt the rock instead of hoping for the stone. You know Peridot rides up from the mantle in black basalt. You know green tourmaline wears a frosted skin over a clean core and has celery grooves down its sides. You know Chrysoprase glows instead of sparkling. That Veracite leaves a white streak on the back of a tile. That Jade rings and resists the hammer while serpentine cuts like soap. That green sapphire is impossibly heavy for its size and scratches glass without trying. And that the drab, crusted bump in a serpentine seam might have more fire in it than a diamond? And you know the villain's 3 fingerprints. Round bubbles mean glass, a knife that bites means soft, and internal sparkle means aventurine, not chrysoprase. That's a real toolkit, and it costs you nothing but the 10 seconds it takes to use it. If any of that was new, subscribe and stay with me. Because the next time you walk a gravel bar, you don't want to be the person who steps over something worth more per gram than gold and keeps walking. Next time out, I want to get into the ugly gray and brown rocks, the ones nobody photographs, because that's where the real money hides and almost nobody looks. Until then, go pull that green rock out of the coffee can, hold it up to a flashlight, and see what it does. Good hunting out there, Rockhound.